the Mass is a mystery. Now, what do we mean when we say that the Mass is a mystery? The word mystery comes from the Greek, and it comes from a term that means to cover the mouth. So the mystery is precisely when we come in contact in something that is so great, so beyond our comprehension, that we have to just close our mouth, right? We're left speechless by the mystery. So why do we say that Mass is a mystery? Some people really like to heighten the sense of the mystery in Mass by focusing on the language of the Mass. And so I think this is part of the fascination that some people feel by celebrating the Mass in Latin. There's something definitely very powerful. It's a deep part of our tradition. But is that exactly what we're looking for when we're talking about the mystery of the Mass? Just that it's in a language that perhaps we don't understand quite as well. And then there's another extreme reaction to the fact that the Mass is a mystery in an effort to make everything completely transparent and to make everything as understandable and clear as possible, sometimes even lessening the sense of mystery by just using the most common language and common gestures in order to take away that sense of mystery from the Mass. Now, I think something that we all share is curiosity about the world around us. And we want clarity. We want to understand what is going on in this world that surrounds us. But then within religious circles, well, there's also this desire to encounter the mystery, to acquiesce to the beauty and wonder of the mystery. And that's something we experience each time that we celebrate Mass. Something that's really interesting along these lines is seeing that the beginnings of the Mass, obviously in the first centuries after Christ, well, in Roman society at this same time, there's a rise in mystery cults. So obviously you have kind of the public pagan religion rendering honor to the pagan gods. But then beyond that, you see a lot of people, especially in certain areas of society, that have a desire for a closer contact with the divine. And this is what leads to the rise of mystery cults. And it's interesting to look at this development because I think in a certain way, it expresses a need that was resolved in a very special way within the Christian religion. These mystery cults were based on myths and on stories that help to explain the meaning of life and show the progress from this life to the afterlife, kind of this heightened sense of awareness of this world cannot be everything that there is. And it's precisely in this context that we see the development of the Mass. Now it makes me think of the document Lumen Gentium from Vatican II that talks about the semina verbi, the seeds of truth, the seeds of the word that exist even in other religions. This doesn't mean that all religions have the same value, but it does mean that there can be truth found in other places. And I think that looking at the mystery cults of the ancient Romans, perhaps what we see is this desire for the divine, this recognition of the existence of an afterlife that predisposed people to receive the tremendous news of the mystery of the Mass, which no longer is simply a made-up story, but a recounting of something real that happened and shows how God intervened in human history. And the Mass is ancient. This is something that I think is particularly fascinating in order to get the proper context and see the value of the Catholic faith, because already in the 2nd century we have Saint Justin Martyr outlining the basic scheme of Mass. And so we know that it's something that exists already from the very beginning of the apostolic, the primitive, and the early church. The Mass is ancient. And through the liturgy, we preserve this very ancient practice that the very first Christians celebrated. Well, the apostles celebrated with our Lord himself. He's the one who institutes the Mass. And that's where it has this sense of mystery and where we do have to sometimes close our mouths, cover our mouths, enjoy the silence, have that reflection and that respect and that awe and reverence before the mystery that takes place before our eyes on the altar. The basic structure of the Mass, well, there's two great parts, the liturgy of the Word and the liturgy of the Eucharist. But it's all united in this mystery of contemplating salvation history and seeing that salvation take place in the representation of the death of Christ on the cross. Just because we talk about the Mass as a mystery does not mean that we think that it's incomprehensible. No, rather, there's a mystagogy, a pedagogical use of the mystery that draws us in to the mystery of salvation. Through the Mass, we enter into this work of salvation that God has done in history. God has intervened in history. This is something so beautiful, so wonderful. Religion is something essential to our existence as human beings. We desire contact with the divine. What fascinates me about Jewish and Christian revelation is we see God who comes to encounter us where we are, and that he gives new sense and new meaning to our lives. When we come to recognize the beauty of the liturgy, we discover something ancient that seems new and fresh to us. It reminds me of the words of St. Augustine in his confession. Late have I loved you, O beauty ever ancient, ever new. Late have I loved you.